Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Go Open Data GOOD23 on the first day. And we're having workshops, 4 workshops all day today. And the first one, I'm very pleased to introduce the Open Government Local workshop that is focusing on not just OGP, but OGP local and some real world examples of what's happening in the open government partnership world. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the facilitator for this session, who is Rudi Bormmann. He is the Deputy Director of the Open Government Partnership Local. And over to you, Rudi.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much for the invitation, and a pleasure to be part of this event, along with big part of the open data community in Canada. That has been, I think, inspirational for many of us that have been working in open data for the last year. So thank you very much for the invitation, and welcome to this webinar that has a particular title called "A Needle in a Haystack." Which is basically what we are going to be talking a little bit about. And we have 3 great examples, 3 great cases to share with you. And as you know, in the last years, the open data movement has evolved and becoming way more focused. Much of the recommendations passing from the early days when everything was about like publishing, and how many data sets are in your portal, started to shift to a more focused case by case, community by community, issue by issue situation, which is, I think, great, a great and very healthy evolution that took us a little bit of time, I have to say. Myself, I've been involved in initiatives in the city of Buenos Aires and in Argentina, and I made those exactly same mistakes along with my colleagues, along with other countries and other locals, but those were the open data early days. So in this workshop today, what we want to do is to do 2 things. One, I'm going to start sharing with you a little bit a quick overview of open data in OGP. To give you a little bit of that, those examples. As you know, the Open Government Partnership is an international organization with government and civil society get together to produce action plans with concrete commitments based on 3 principles: access to information, transparency, and accountability, with citizen participation. So within those races, we have seen a lot of policies happening, and open data, it's one of the strong ones, not the only one, and we have seen a big diversity. So it's we are going to see the examples later on. Let me please introduce very quickly, then I will go, run into their biographies, but just to let you know that I'm here with the best possible company. So from Buenos Aires, we have Tamara Laznik. Welcome, Tamara. She's the Operational Manager of Institutional Articulation in the Undersecretary for Open Government and Accountability in the Buenos Aires city government. Welcome, Tamara. She's going to be sharing with us some cases on the city of Buenos Aires. Before jumping to Europe, I'm going just to cross the river and go to Uruguay, because I think she's still in Uruguay, Gloria Guerrero, the Executive Director of ILDA, the Latin American Open Data Initiative, another big relevant organization for all of us who have been working in open data, not only in the region, but also globally. ILDA, it's one of like the strong names, and Gloria has just become the Executive Director. So this is a great pleasure that she made some time to talk to us. Gloria, welcome also to the workshop. And finally, let me now, yes, we will move to the old continent, and let me introduce Dr. Renz from the city of Hamburg. He has been involved with several examples in the private sector, academic, etc., etc. We're going to fully introduce him later on with all the details. But in the case of Tamara and Andre, what is interesting is that they're going to be talking basically about a bit of open data, but also related to their commitment as OGP members, and how the opportunity to do an action plan and maybe sit down with the government, civil society organizations, academics, etc., produce an open data project, particularly in this case. So this is going to be also interesting to see that model. While Gloria is going to help us like take a little bit of zoom out and take a broader look in an organization that has been championing this idea of looking into communities, looking into issues, define your strategy carefully, has been doing a lot of research on hyper-focused open data work, and she will help us take a look into the work that ILDA has been doing. So I think we have a very packed agenda. So let me go. I'm not going to spend too much time because I think it's important to listen to the cases. So this is a little bit the agenda for the workshop today. Talk to you a little bit about the OGP local program, then open data in OGP. We are going to be talking about the Buenos Aires case, the Hamburg case, and then the presentation from ILDA. At the end, of course, if we have time, we will get questions and live questions, and we will be doing the closing. If you have any question, please use the chat, send your questions right there. Judy and the organizers are going to be in the backstage taking a look into that. So at the end, if we have time, we can go into some of those questions to make this as practical, as useful as possible to you. So as I was saying, OGP, it's an international organization, was founded 11 years ago in the context of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Currently has 76 country members and 106 local members that have been expanding from the last 4 years, and it's a program that I have under my responsibility. A total or 408 action plans have been made at the local level. 114 local action plans. A total of 5,000 commitments have been made in these 11 years in the context of OGP. Basically, this is a very rough look at the process that an OGP member, when they start producing an action plan, goes through. It's a stage-by-stage process that is totally public. You have to create a team, produce a roadmap for creating an action plan, and propose solutions, discuss the solution, categorize the solutions, have a dialogue with different organizations, and then transforms all these ideas, all these issues in concrete commitments, in commitments that can be then followed and tracked. The cycle of an OGP local member, it's basically co-create an action plan, implement an action plan, and excuse me, evaluate it. And then this is a cycle that is repeated. What we are trying to do here is that our members become better and better on their capacity to co-create a public policy in a different way, in a more participatory way, in a more open way, which is basically a big I would say trend. Try to see how do we tackle complex issues by bringing a different way to solve it. So the OGP model provides exactly that scenario. It's a really, in some cases, a really new scenario for many people working in the public sector that suddenly have this opportunity to kind of get out to the street, to co-create, to consult, to have a discussion, to learn from others. So this is what the model brings. That's why the evaluation and the learning is so important, because as you start running these plans, these commitments, you go refining your capacity, you go learning more into the cycle, no? So it's a constant learning process. Nobody knows it by heart. This is something that is totally evolutive. These are some of the areas, the public policy areas, where we have seen commitments being made by our members. These are just some of them. As you can see, there is a big variety of them. The only thing that we request to our members is that these policy areas need to draft their commitments within these three main values of OGP: access to information, public participation, and accountability. The more commitments we get, the more thematic areas we get, the more we learn, the more we give back to our community. And one important point I want to make that is also important in OGP is that basically this is all public policy making. The commitments become the responsibility of a government to implement a commitment. That implementation needs to be presented into external stakeholders to follow up, to make suggestions, to make improvements, to make feedback. Our evidence from the last 10 years of commitment show that when you co-create policy in this way, policy becomes more sustainable. When you have feedback tools during the policy cycle to people to come back to you, these policies become more rooted, more well-known. We understand better what data do we have, or what data are we lacking. We understand better what the government is doing on this issue. We understand better what should be like the citizens' probably role in one specific thing, or in a specific organization, or in a specific, I don't know, university, private sector, etc. So it becomes this very, very interesting ecosystem. Let's talk about open data quickly before jumping into the cases. This is a photo I always like to show. I took these screenshots from the 2021 still pandemic days Open Data Day, right, to show a little bit of the diversity of the community, the diversity of the scenarios, the different issues. This is, of course, just a small glimpse of what is happening, but it's just to share with you a little bit of that diversity, that energy, and that wide range of different themes that are popping up. And every year in Open Data Day, it's great to see how this is evolving. It's becoming more focused. And the community is learning, right? It's I think globally, open data is one of those movements that really was carried out by community and remains really strong. Latin America, of course, is one very, very strong continent, but of course also in the Asia Pacific region, in Europe, in the Eastern Partnership, in the Africa MENA region, also we see very interesting things happening. The two trends, I said something before on the beginning of open data early days, right? Which was more like setting the stage, create infrastructure, launch catalogs, repositories, national open data strategies and policies, was very, I would say, very push from the government out. From 2015 and today, we start seeing a shift, a sort of more focus, more dialogue, more community approaches, the need to talk to specific communities to understand what data might be required, the need of different sectorial areas within a government, for example, to engage in conversations with non-governmental stakeholders that can help bridge those data gaps that, of course, already exist. The government sometimes doesn't have all the information. So we see from 2015 to now some people like to call this like the second wave of open data, no? Like a more sectorial, bigger discussions, new issues, appearing, more thematic approaches. So this is a little bit like the two moments that we are seeing. In the Americas, open data, as you can see here, almost every country member has at least one data commitment. At a global level, 20% of the commitments include an open data component, and 33% belong to either national or local members that have put an open data commitment in their action plan. We still see a continuous growth of members in the Americas doing open data commitments, with 42% having strong results. As you know, OGP has a unit that evaluates this, the impact of these initiatives, because of course many of those initiatives don't have any impact. This is a truth we have to face. But in open data, 42% is a strong result, which is a very good number. Let me jump to some examples on open data in the case of OGP. These are all examples that have been part of an OGP action plan. This is more national approach. One clear case, efficiency of public funds. In this case, Colombia published open data on the contracting cycle of the Bogota school feeding program, which contributed to savings between 10% and 15%. This was a very interesting commitment, also done in the context of the open contracting standard. One of those evolutions we have seen in open data, it's also the appearing, the birth of standardized thematic public data standards, like the open contracting one, that it's becoming really a relevant trend, and was super useful for this example in Colombia. Social assistance programs in Paraguay, the publish and use of open data on beneficiaries, program delivery, and social audits results to establish improvement plans. All this information was, of course, published in a very complex way. Open data became a way to organize, summarize, have only one-stop shop to find the information about these programs that, of course, civil society, think tanks, academia, but the government itself can now organize, centralize in one single public place. Many times when we talk about open data, we always think about reusers from the external reuser, which is of course very important, but many times, most of the reusers are inside the government, because usually it's very complex to, almost there are no rules to share information between agencies inside a same government, as silly as that might sound. Open state, another interesting evolution of open government, no? Like parliaments and the legislative and the justice, powers are starting also to work in open government. They are starting to work in open data. In the case of Uruguay, we can see here the example of one of the commitments, they collect and publish open data on election results, ballot papers, everything regarding to elections at the national and subnational level, using open data for that. Imagine in bigger countries, the complexity usually on elections, information, open data can be a big help here. So to wrap up this, some considerations. Data can generate transformation as long as it has public value. The connection between demand and supply creates bigger impact in open data strategies. Always, we like to repeat this demand and supply component. That is, if you are doing an open data strategy, you need to always understand that you're going to be playing this this game of demand and supply all the time, and that is where the magic happened. Like best of the examples that we find, and today we are going to see with examples of Buenos Aires, but also, for example, with how Hamburg is trying to create that space for demand and supply conversation and understand it better. You will see the logic of it. Information transparency, to be effective, must be connected with opening spaces for participation. This is very important from the point of view that just releasing and publishing data and throw things into a website and just expect that this is enough to create a more sort of informed civic citizenship. No, it's not enough. It's not enough. The narrative of democracy, the narrative of these issues require more creativity, require innovating in participation formats, try to find new ways to connect with different audiences. Citizens are not waiting for us there. Citizens are not expecting this to be open there. So always thinking about this exercise of information transparency connected with other type of activities in the real world it's very, very recommended. Another important infrastructure and institutional frameworks. Open data policies can be blown away from one administration to the other if you don't make sure that the technology and the operational manual, the institutional framework are solid. This is very important. That's why sometimes, and we are seeing this more frequently now today, like with the digital strategies, we see that how open data it's being kind of pulled into those more holistic strategies, digital strategies that include open data. So that's a great way to sort of create a more holistic approach to it. It cannot be a single thing, like we are going to do open data and that's it. No, open data is so connected to a much bigger architecture that really requires a way to think both in the infrastructure and the institutional frameworks better. And of course, I think this example will come up at some point, the COVID-19 improve the conditions, right? In the case of emergencies, how can we come faster to share information in the context of a crisis like this? What type of information do we need to see? If you remember, during the pandemic, one of the most visited websites in the pandemic was something made by a 15 years old kid in his room. He put together like these data sets from a university and put together this amazing dashboard that became one of the most well-known dashboards, made by this kid. And many organizations, many governments understood much better where they were lacking capacity, either technical or professional or technological, to cope with a moment of emergency where this information becomes super useful. So definitely COVID is one strong case for an example. So I'm going to stop here. I don't wanna use more of my time because I want to jump to the examples, which are way more interesting than my introduction. But with this, I wanted to share with you a little bit of what we are seeing from OGP, all these examples. We have many local examples coming, hyper-local cases, very interesting. Happy to connect with anyone on the workshop to talk about this. We have several things happening at the local level where we are seeing a total, I would say, big second wave of open data. We are seeing examples that are closer to services, closer to the citizens. So it's very interesting what we are seeing at the local level. Probably Tamara and Andre will be talking about very tangible examples, right? But OGP is there to help. We provide peer learning around these issues. We contact with allies like ILDA, for example, an expert for technical support on specific themes. We facilitate materials, we do research, we do resources. So whatever you need, happy to help. But I'm going to stop here, and we are going to start with the examples, with the cases, because I'm a little bit late, and Yuri is going to kill me. So let's move to Buenos Aires now, and we are going to start with the first of our cases, and let me introduce Tamara Laznik. As I said, she's the institutional articulation manager for the city of Buenos Aires, where she works to promote open government initiatives and accountability through public innovation and co-creation processes. Tamara has a wealth of experience in the field of transparency and the fight against corruption, and previously she worked for the government of the province of Buenos Aires, a province that is the size of a country, basically. The complexity of that province is crazy. And the Civil Association for Equality and Justice, a SIG, one renowned organization in Argentina. She is a lawyer and magister candidate on administration and public policies at the University of San Andres in Buenos Aires. Tamara, the floor is yours. We'll be here, whatever you need. There you go. Well, let's go with Buenos Aires a little bit.
Sorry, yeah. Hi, thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to share this kind of dialogue instances with colleagues from other cities and organizations. And today I will tell you a little bit about what we do in Buenos Aires. And the first things that I want, sorry, I'm having some problems, yeah, with my presentation. The first thing that I wanted to share with you is something about the open governance and open data history of Buenos Aires, because I think that this is interesting to understand how Buenos Aires is where it is now, because we have like a long history in this agenda. And since the beginning of working in open government, we had different legislations to support our work. And this was very important to have like institutional support to have the possibility to improve the policies. The laws, the most important laws and decrees, you can see it in the slide. The first one, for me, is the most important legislation, is the law on public information access, a legislation that ensures the access to public information for all the citizens of Buenos Aires. Then we have the law on state modernization, which was important because we know that modernization, digitalization are like relative agendas to open government and open data processes. Then we have the decree on the creation of Buenos Aires Data. Buenos Aires Data is our data portal, it's a website, and having a decree to institutionalize this website is like very important. And then the decree on the full disclosure of Buenos Aires data that ensures to have the possibility to publish all information in this website. And we start like with this information disclosure, and then we had the possibility to improve it, going from this information disclosure to an open government ecosystem, strengthening and improving, not only having like initiatives, but having like more cross-cutting policy of open government around all the ministries and organizations of the government. And here you can see in the slide some of our initiatives: Olympic legacy, government commitments, Buenos Aires public works map, open budget, well, the participation in OGP, and our open state forum. And talking about OGP and what Rudi said, it's important to know that this work was we could work this because of the support of OGP. And OGP, being part of OGP for Buenos Aires was a very important thing to improve this thing about the cross-cutting vision, not to have like some project about open government, but to start cross-cutting this open government agenda. And in this line, since 2016, Buenos Aires has become a member of OGP in the local program. And since that year, we have presented 3 action plans with 23 commitments. When I read the number, I can't believe it, because the first plan we had like just 5 commitments with 3 areas of government, and now we have commitments around the government and with the other branches of the state, the legislative and the judiciary branch. And all of these commitments were part of different co-creation process and interviews and dialogue stances with academia, civil society, also private sector, and the different areas of government. We have commitments about different topics such as gender, diversity, climate change, innovation, open state, digital inclusion. I have in the slide some ideas, and in the slide also you can see some of our co-creation meetings that we developed during these years. And nowadays we're working on our 3rd action plan, which includes different commitments. For me, one of the most important is the one about diversity that I will tell you later. And another one about polite language in public documents. That is a vision that for us is very important to have in the government. And now I will share you about some specific commitments that I think that are the ones that have their own history, because are commitments that have like a little bit different from the others that we implemented. So the first one is from the 3rd action plan, is the integral portal for the provision of information and reporting on sexual and reproductive health services. And the other one is the one that we are implementing now from the 3rd action plan, openness of data on access to rights for the LGBTQ community. The first one has like, or had, because it was in the past, but is still now implementing, has like 3 parts. The first one is that we have the possibility to publish a new data set in our data portal about the distribution sites, provider, general stock, and different things about the services on sexual and reproductive health in the city. But the second, and for me the most interesting and different thing, is that we developed with a civil society organization, Fundación Huésped, an organization from Argentina, a platform to share this information. So in this commitment, we had the opportunity not only to co-create with the civil society, but to implement the commitment with the civil society. And also having this, this name of the platform that you can see in the slide, we had the possibility to disseminate this information in the specific community, because sometimes the government doesn't have the possibility to communicate in the specific community the information. So this was a very interesting articulation with Fundación Huésped. And the third part was the reporting channel that we have with Fundación Huésped to report problems or needed for the civil society about the service on the sexual and reproductive health. And the second one is about diversity. And we are working like in two different things. The first one is to make a diagnosis through different participatory meetings to understand which information is important to citizens to have in our website. And the other one, thinking in the civil society organization, understand which information is important for them to advocacy. So we are working in these participatory instances, and inside the government, we're working with the different areas to look for the information, to understand if we can publish the information that it needs, and etc. And the idea is then to have like the data sets in internet, and to make some visualization contents and some data tones, video tones to disseminate the information. And the other like agenda that is very interesting is the mobility agenda. And we have a commitment in the first action plan that is called openness of transport data under international standards. And in this commitment, we published information in the transit feed specification GTFS format. For me, it's very technical, but it's a standard for opening transport data worldwide. And the great thing about this commitment is like apps like Google Maps, Movies, or Transit app use this information to have real-time information about the location of the transport, the vehicle control cameras, etc. So this is very interesting to have like an articulation with the private sector to improve the travel experience of the system of Buenos Aires. So I think these both agendas or these commitments are interesting because first, because you can understand or you can learn about openness processes in government, but the most interesting thing is how we articulate in the first case with civil society organizations and then with the private sector to have a better openness process and to have more value, because maybe we can open a lot of information, but if no one uses information, it's like it's not so interesting. So with this articulation and collaboration process, we have the possibility to add value to this public policy. And finally, I wanted to share with you something that is not part of OGP or OGP action plans, but is very related to, that is a Buenos Aires Climate Action platform. That's a platform we launched in 2020 during the pandemic for COVID. And in this platform convenes the accountability and publish of data and information about the environmental management of Buenos Aires. And the most interesting thing about this platform is that was the first time that we decided to start our process of designing with a co-creation process. So we invite citizen specialists and civil society organizations to define which information had to be published, what was how was the best way to show the information in an interactive way, like with visualization and graphics, graphs, and also to invite them to be part of this, not only to, okay, yes, you can see the information and that's all. So we prepare like a very strong co-creation process to have the vision of the citizen in our platform. And this platform, like the other interesting characteristic is like we are in constant evolution and we are thinking all the time in different initiatives to do in the frame of this platform. And one of them is that in last year we launched the first green job indicator of Buenos Aires with the support of the 40 cities, where we developed a methodology for measuring green employment in the city. And we published, of course, the methodology and also the result on the data of the report that we made. And the other one, and I look Rudi now, we last year we launched the Declaration of Buenos Aires, the Open Government for Climate Action in Local Governments, the first agreement between local governments to promote the open government and open data vision as a tool to mitigate the effects of the climate change. And it's based on the Escazú Agreement and the Aarhus Convention from Europe, the Escazú is from Latin America. And establishes a series of fundamental principles such as collaboration, open data, participation, to make that the open government a tool to for climate action. Now we are like, I think 13 cities. We are part of the declaration, and we are inviting new cities every day to be part, because we have we are part with Scotland. We coordinate the local circle on climate action in the frame of OGP, and the idea is to have like a peer group meetings and a space to share experience with other governments, other organizations, to think and to develop different initiatives to use the open government for the climate action. So well, this, I think this was my last slide. So well, I just wanted to share some initiatives, but I'm here if you have any questions or if you have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Thank you for that presentation, and especially to deliver it 1 minute before time. This is amazing. You will get an award probably, or something. We'll send you something. Thank you so much, Tamara, for those examples, very clear cases. We will get back to you on the questions. There are already 2 for you. You can think about it, and we will go back to this after Andrea and Gloria. One is how open budget works in Buenos Aires, whatever. I think it's one of the questions we got, a little bit about the open budget project. And then someone is asking about the resources for open data and open gov. Yeah, this is the 500 people that it's working on the open data team in Buenos Aires to do all these things, but you will be surprised how a small group of strong women are leading this amazing work. So Tamara, thank you very much. Think about this, take a break, a little bit tea. We will move now and jump directly to Germany. We are going to be talking with Dr. Renz. Andre is supporting Hamburg in the planning and implementation phase of the action plan at OGP local, especially in the design of participatory rooms and dialogue formats with different audiences. Andre has a lot of experience in community building work in the Northern Ireland. In his current position as a senior consultant in Berlin and as a research associate at the Helmut Schmidt University and the University of the Federal Armed Forces in Hamburg. He has been primarily focusing on the topics of digitality and datafication in the public sector, data-driven innovation, and the impact of artificial intelligence on multiple sectors, as well as transformation processes in public institutions and the development of open government. Until 2022, Andre was the head of the research group Data-Driven Business Model Innovations at the Weissenbaum Institute for the Network Society in Berlin, where transfer and dialogue were an important part of their work. So here we are going to present the case of one of the new members of OGP local, the Hamburg, and one concrete commitment that it's basically at the heart of the commitment, it's establishing dialogue for open data. Andre, the floor is yours, 10 to 15 minutes, take it away.
All right, I will give you my best. Thank you for inviting me. So as you already mentioned, we are just at the beginning of this whole OGP local journey and also with our commitments. So let's see if I can share my screen. Yeah, you should see this now. So I will go into the map a little later. So this is just our journey in general. So, but maybe let's start with the history of open government in Hamburg. So Hamburg has quite a history when it comes to implementing and thinking open government. So since 2012, yes, 2012, Hamburg committed itself to open government by introducing the Transparency Act. So basically they have a transparency portal that provides all of, or provides free access to all relevant data and documents from the city of Hamburg. So, and another example we can see in Hamburg that they are like really committed to open government. That's actually the digital strategy for Hamburg, which also really considers all areas of life in the city. And it also really focuses on a stronger promotion of citizen participation. You know, and when we are joining OGP Local by 2022, so last year, so thinking about open government was not really a starting point for us. It was more a new chance to think and rethink about all the activities that are already going on in Hamburg. So, and maybe let's go into the action plan. So when we developed the local action plan for Hamburg last year, we set actually 2 focal points. So one focus was for the inclusive urban development, so especially the visibility and the awareness for disadvantaged groups and their special mobility needs and challenges. And the second focus we set, this is also the part I want to talk about today, was the promoting inner city dialogue by increasing participation, transparency, and citizen involvement. So we call this commitment the data dialogue, as you can already see on the slide. So it's called Data Dialogue Journey. So what's the idea behind our data dialogue? As I mentioned, we just start by the beginning of this year. So when we first came together during our co-creation process on the action plan, we asked ourselves, how could we use the OGP Local program to be part of OGP Local to support the existing open government activities in the best possible way for us? And actually, that was a more urgent question where we currently see a need for action, you know, so, and we see a need of action to finding and also to creating more spaces for dialogue, you know, because working on ideas of open data or open government means first and foremost challenging your own mindset, understanding new perspectives, and also engaging in exchange. And we really need appropriate platforms for especially this. So, and this is where the data dialogue comes in, because you can have or come up with a lot of great ideas, approaches, and also tools to promote open data. But the one thing that is really essential, and after all these years, Hamburg is working on open data, is really to focus the communication and dialogue. So it sounds quite simple, but you know, this is also the tricky part, because it sounds so simple, we easily do forget to communicate proper with the civil society during our daily business. So, and that's the tricky part of it. So, and what does it mean for us? So we need to raise awareness of the need to open and accessible communication. We need to raise awareness to invite people for exchange. We really have to invite these people. And once we have cultivated these steps in our governance and our mind, we will also be able to generate more meaningful participation, more meaningful co-creation processes. So, and you might wonder, why did we call our commitment data dialogue and maybe not open government dialogue? The reason is quite easy. So as I mentioned at the beginning, Hamburg has several initiatives. So the data governance for Hamburg, the digital strategy, and the Transparency Act. So, and there's one thing all these strategies have in common, and these are data. So data are important, and also data management is so important point for supporting open government and also for civil society participation in Hamburg. And that's why we say, okay, we want to focus on the topic of data for this commitment. And maybe this is more or less off the record. What makes our data dialogue so special? Why is it maybe special for at least for the German administration? Maybe it's just my observation, or maybe it's also part of our culture, but you know, usually when we share ideas, thoughts, or concerns about our work, which we do this just with an inner cycle, you know, that means we are doing it with people in our community, in our department, or in our agency. But above all, we often find it really challenging to invite external people, so especially the civil society, to take part of this whole journey, you know. And this is also a really tricky part, to come over this, to come out of our comfort zone and exactly to invite other people to take part of this journey, to take part and to co-create together with us. And that's why we implemented the data dialogue. So basically, the aim is to talk about the topic of data in an understandable way for different interest groups. So this was the idea when we start about thinking of the data dialogue, because every citizen, the public administration, the civil society, they all generates and use data every day. So we have this increasing relevance to really break down this really often quite hard to grab and really abstract this discourse about data for all these groups. So, and that's why we try to establish and also connecting existing rooms for dialogue for issue or of issues related to the data governance. So, and some of our objects are we are supporting data literacy with our dialogues. We try to build data communities, because this is also a really important part when we're talking about data dialogue. That always also means like talking about how can we build data communities, how can we work together. So, and we take up also specific data topics from the city of Hamburg that might be relevant not just now, but also in the future. So, and now let's go into our journey. So as you can already see here, this is our concept board. We just started our journey by the beginning of this year with the data dialogue. So we are really at the beginning. And basically here you can see our concept board. We decided at the beginning that we want to use a tool that is easy to share with external partners. So that's why we are using concept board. We have now more than 20 different boards for our work, for example, for working group agreements, for ideas, for evaluation processes, and it works quite well. So that's why I'm showing you this slide today. So the board you can see here is especially for our data dialogue. So, and we decide to design this whole process as a journey, and instead of setting a strict agenda for the upcoming 2 years, because this gives us more flexibility, and we also have the possibility to invite people also to co-create the whole journey we are going through. So that's the reason why we're not having a strict agenda. So we like try to stay as flexible as possible. And I might zoom in a little so that you can see it a little better. So we start with our first data dialogue in March this year. So what have we done? We invited 3 experts from 3 different departments of the city of Hamburg. It was the social department, the school department, and the police department. So, and the experts spoke about their experience in the field of data. So how they're already using data, maybe for data-based decision-making, or how they developed their own data-driven technology solutions to support maybe working together with the civil society. So we have quite a few topics that we're talking about. So, but the really special part of this first data dialogue was not the topics about the experts. It was more a workshop. We tried to conduct it, and we tried to open up the dialogue. So we wanted the experts not to just answers in the second part of our workshops from the audience. We invited the experts actually to consider questions in advance that I wanted to discuss with the external stakeholders about their own projects. So actually, what have we done? We reversed the question answer rule. You know, usually an expert is coming in, they're presenting their project about data, and then you can ask questions. But we said, no, we want to do it different. So you thinking about questions that might relevant for your project, and you have to come up with these questions, and the experts will be the audience. So we did this in reverse. So, and when I present this approach to the 3 experts in the speakers briefing, so I guess it was 1 week before the actual event was held, they were, to be honest, not really convinced about it. You know, they were like, okay, why should I think about questions about my data project, and why should I share these questions with other people that are even not working in my department? So it was a kind of, they feel not really comfortable about it. And on the day, on the actual data dialogue, I was like really curious to see whether if the idea will work out or whether it will be an epic fail, you know, because that also could happen, you know. And to my surprise, or to our surprise, all of the 3 experts jumped really into this changing of perspective and prepared really fabulous questions, you know, for the audience, questions that were really relevant for their own projects. And also the audience was so delighted to be asked for their opinions and their expertise rather than having to ask questions. So, and that was like a really wonderful success for us. And also, I think that's a great example how to raise awareness of the benefits of open government, because what we can witness at this point is the audience and the experts in our first data dialogue, both coming from the public administration. So both sides experience in the workshop what difference it can make to swap roles, or at least to understand or to open up their own worlds in a new way. So the audience experienced how valuable it can be in the role of an external party, so in the role of the civil society, to be able to bring in their own opinion. And the 3 experts experienced how valuable it can be to address their own questions to the civil society, and actually how value it can be for their own project. So this was really interesting for us. It was a kind of experiment, but it works out very well. So because I'm not running out of time, I will show you one more thing, so you can see on a journey, because I'm really excited about this. It's coming soon. So we are actually having a special format. It's called Data Dialogue by Friends. So by Data Dialogue by Friends, we are inviting initiatives from Hamburg to host the Data Dialogue. So we won't be the host, so we invited other initiatives to be the host. And we are having 2 wonderful data dialogues by Friends upcoming, one in September and one in the beginning of the next year. So, and one data dialogue by Friends will be about warm data lab. So this is an alternative way to approaching complex transformation topics, for example, in the topic of data. And then the other data dialogue by Friends we are planning right now is together with the Helmut Schmidt University on the topic of critical data thinking for schools and related to all stakeholders that work with schools. So this will be really interesting, and we're really looking forward for this alternative approaches we're going through. And maybe one more topic that is coming up in one of our next regular data dialogue will be about the gender data gap. So we asked people from public administration what topics might be relevant for you, and then they came up with a gender data gap. So we never had this on our list, you know. So this is also really exciting that we're getting all this new input by our by the audience. So, and yeah, one of the upcoming events will about this. So getting to the end, for us, the data dialogue is really a format to trying things out. It's an experimental space, you know. We will use all the individual events to gain experience of which approaches will help us to promote open government, to promote open data, and which approaches may be less useful for us. So it's really trying things out. So, and I just can say I really invite you all to join us, to share your ideas and also your learnings with us. We are really happy to learn from your OGP local community and also from all other peoples. And yeah, be more strong together and learn together. This is what we really want to do. Yeah. So I hope I'm not running out of time. Do I?
You are 1 minute late, which for a German, I will
Ooh,
say they will
you were
take
late
you out
as
your
well,
passport.
today, so that's fine.
Don't worry, Andrea. I'm super excited. What can I tell you to see like this roadmap, building up an initiative in this way? Like it's really exciting, and I hope and I'm sure that for many of the people on the workshop, many of them working in local governments across Canada and other places must find this very interesting, and I'm sure they will ask you for that roadmap and see the examples and see how can you connect with the people on Hamburg. Very excited approach to a model to build open data in a very different way, I would say, no, because this is really built up. We will get back to you after Gloria, of course, to make some questions, especially on those conversations with you mentioned the police, for example, no, like what were the resistances, the fears for them in a conversation like this. Not usually data users, data producers are sometimes a little bit reluctant to share, and then after, I guess, some dialogue, everything, like all the barriers come down, and then there's like a very constructive dialogue. So we will get back to you. Thank you so much, Andrea,
Thank you so much.
and honestly, super exciting, and congratulations on the work that it's being done. It's really excited to see. All right, we are good in time. We are good. We are going to move now from Berlin to Montevideo, not to talk to a person from Uruguay, actually a Mexican, because Gloria Guerrero is Mexican, and she is the executive, as I said, director of the Latin American Open Data Institute. She's the new executive director of this organization. As I said, it's a pilot organization for many of us, not only working on the technical way, but also one of the great accelerators of community building around open data for many years, which is also that element, it's important. So Gloria worked for more than 10 years in the intersection of policy and technology, leading projects at different government institutions to strengthen access to information, open data, and digitalization. She also worked in the startup sector, developing technology platforms to promote citizen engagement and freedom of speech. She specialized on technology development with a human rights perspective. For the last 4 years, as part of Fundación Avina, she worked developing advocacy strategies and coordinating Pulsante, a multi-donor alliance to expand civic space and promote the empowerment of citizens in Latin America. She holds a BA in International Relations from the Tech of Monterrey, OGP local member, of Public Policy, and from the Hertie School of Governance in Berlin. So then you can have a beer with Andre at some point to talk about Berlin. Gloria, again, thank you so much for your time and being here. I know you are extremely busy, and I hope you can help us take a little bit zoom out. This workshop tries to promote this vision of being more objective, focus, work with communities. So help us to understand this and see how are you seeing it from ILDA and from yourself. Thank you very much. The floor is all yours.
Well, thanks, Rudi, for the invitation to share our work on this space, and also thanks to Go Open Data Canada for the event. For me, it's a very exciting to share this. As you mentioned, I'm starting this position in this. I've been in ILDA for the last 2 weeks, but I've been part of the community for years. So also it's very exciting to share this, because I think one of the main assets that we have in Latin America, it's our community. I think, as you mentioned at the beginning, like Latin America has stood up in the open data agenda. We have many open data portals. I think we have more than 200 open data portals in all the region. Countries at national level working on open government, but also a local level. But this has been like done in waves. I think sometimes new governments come in and they are very eager to promote open government. Sometimes they are not used and they are not like very aware of all the benefits. And then you have communities and civil society organizations working with them. And I think those waves in the region are very special because the secret behind keeping this agenda alive has been the community. And it's not just the community in one country, it's also the community, like the regional community. We have a very important event that is hosted and co-organized by ILDA, but actually like it's a property of the community. The community organizes the agenda. We set up the logistics and work with the local governments that are hosting the event every year. This has been done for 10 years now. It's going to be the anniversary this year, and we're going to go back to Uruguay where it all started. And it's called Abre Latam. And this unconference has the objective of gathering people from different sectors, government, civil society, private enterprises, academia, just to talk about open data, open government initiatives. But the secret, and I think something that it's very special, is that the agenda is co-designed in this unconference format. So everyone gathers, you set up the agenda collaboratively, and then we divide in different groups, and the conversations and the dialogue starts. So this event started in 2013. And as I mentioned, it has been done every year for the last 10 years. The question that started it was like, what is the opportunity for open data agenda in Latin America? And I think that was the first kind of idea that started the fire. Like, it was like, okay, what's the opportunity? What's the role of civil society? What's the role of government? How are we going to give continuity to this agenda? And opening that conversation to many countries, to many sectors, like, I think gave us a lot of different answers. We have been working in the last 10 years on research, like specific academic products on the value of data, economic development, opportunities, transparency, like very of the technical maybe and more kind of academic area of it. But also we are leading projects around many topics, for example, climate change, migration, and what's the role of data on those topics. And one of our main pillar is the community capacity building. Sometimes you have different organizations working with data from different perspectives, developing applications, developing portals, working very closely with the government. And then you have like new members or new local members that are going to start working with that. And sometimes the exchange is the same logic as OGP. And I think that's why we are very good partners, because many of the work that we do fosters that dialogue. Sometimes and I think the very institutional road for these dialogues to be productive and to produce and to impact policy, it's the OGP local mechanism. Sometimes those are, I think OGP becomes kind of this cues to put people in the same room. But when you have a community that already knows each other, that have been working in different projects, or even when the government changes in the region, you see like civil society is still there, like pushing and promoting this agenda. And this has been very, very special for us. Also, to leverage the conversation and to foster why open data is still important, this community has been also using like other examples from different countries. If you're working in Mexico, you can talk with someone in Colombia, but also you can use the example of Buenos Aires if you go to Mérida. So I think those like the cross-sector, the cross-regional, the cross-geographical knowledge, it's very special and something that happens every year in Abre Latam when people meet and it's like, oh yeah, I remember. We didn't know about the technical thing, but we contacted this local civic technology company that is working on that and they help us. And I think it's a lot of sharing and a lot of like building up of what was done before or in another place. The community, as I mentioned, it's really big. And actually it's not owned by ILDA. It's not ours. It's just the community that we happen to host the events and to host maybe some of the structure for this to happen. But the community has a life itself. It has been done every year. And even in the pandemic with COVID, we did two efforts to keep the energy going and to keep the community connected. And there were online events. One, it was like Abre Latam from home. And it was just this online event to gather, to talk. It was more relaxed because people was obviously thinking about other topics. But also we were seeing like the importance of data and the importance of data sharing during the pandemic. It's like in terms of vaccines, in terms of access, in terms of health issues, etc. So data became very central, but from other perspective. And I think we also saw a lot of initiatives from Latin America coming up to try to help the government, because it was like a very, very big problem. We didn't know exactly what was going on. And many civil society initiatives started gathering information that later became part of government efforts, or they became part of the portals of the government to just identify what was going on. Then we also had Abre Latam from the future. And we thought also, like in a very kind of weird way, that we were all at home trying to understand what a global pandemic meant. We thought like, okay, maybe it's time to think about the future. What are the future scenarios for data? What are the challenges in terms of digital rights, privacy? And we started like intersecting other topics with data. And also that was a very interesting and a very, I think, beautiful effort, because we did a lot of graphics, videos, and it was a more artistic, from a very artistic point of view, how we can use data and narratives to understand the impact of data and datification in our Latin American societies. The contribution for the community, and I think it's also a two-way street. It's not just ILDA, but also the community. What like they give us is knowledge, this constant generation of knowledge, capacity building. We are very focused on that, and connection. Just connecting and knowing who's there, who's working on that, who's gonna need something. And something that we saw like in the last years, it's that also you have this kind of boom around open data in the very beginning, maybe 10 years, 5 years ago. As we mentioned, the wave started go down. But there are other sectors, for example, social movements, that now require data. And you already have a very, very well-established technical community that knows and understand what data you need to gather for a specific policy, advocacy campaigns, to work with the government, to sit from another place with different information, to complement what the government is doing. And also we are seeing that now social movements that are on the other side, that they might be not following an institutionalized way to raise their voice and to ask for the government for better policies, for inclusion, etc. They are working with the technical community. And I think those bridges are very, very interesting, and something that I think we're gonna see every day more. And that's also like the secret of community. I think the heritage that we have. Last year, we had this event, Open América Abierta, in República Dominicana, where we joined our efforts with OGP, and we had like a gathered community. Like we have all the OGP agenda with governments, and also on the next day we had Abre Latam, and it was a joint event that allows also to have government officials, civil society, activists, civic tech entrepreneurs, developers, etc., in the same place. And also those conversations are very rich. And also was our first physical event after the pandemic. So it was very special, and the energy was very, very powerful there. But also you see like the community is still there, and they still want to make things together. And I think when I was listening to Andre and to Tamara, this idea of awareness, I think awareness sometimes, the name of our conference, like to finding a needle in a haystack, is how you find those ways to make citizens outside our bubbles to understand and to be interested in data and to be interested in open government. And I think for us, like the communities, it's so diverse, and you have like activists, you have people from the private sector, that they can help us to take that message to other places that maybe we as organizations, we are not reaching, or maybe the government is not reaching, because they are also very, very specific. And I think like something very useful that I have seen in different initiatives, in different countries, in different cities, is to gather around thematic clusters. I think you also mentioned that, Rudi, at the very beginning, you're seeing more specialized commitments. And now, if we talk about open contracting, you have a specific community, specific organizations with a lot of history and a lot of lessons learned around what it means to work on open contracting. Migration also, it's another topic that in the region, it's really important. And you are seeing there specialized organizations that have been working on migration for ages, and they know like all the legal challenges, human rights violations, etc. But at the same time, now you are seeing people that works on open data now work with them to understand what data is missing, to understand the conditions of the people that is migrating and under what circumstances. So you kind of like are joining like knowledges and are joining expertises, climate change, data feminism, gender and diversity. And I think something that is happening that I'm really, really excited about, it's what's going on around AI. I think we have the heritage of this community working on open data. And we know that the discussion around AI is not just open data. It's about transparency, it's about accountability, it's about collaboration, it's about inclusion. And all those things are on the open data agenda. And I think that all what we have done, all that we have learned from this journey in the last 10 years, now it can be very useful to have a discussion around ethics and around the inclusion of other communities and other people on the discussion on AI. So I think something that also kind of builds up on what was done before. So the very, just to start closing, the lessons of this work for ILDA has been the first, like the collaborative approach to solve problems and to build up on regional knowledge. It's like the knowledge is just not national, it's not local, it's regional, and that has been very, even we have different contexts, but sometimes there are things that we can share that can be replicated, that can be adapted. And I think it's important to understand also as an American Latin societies, we have many things in common, and that regional knowledge, it's important. The trust and permanent exchange is a key, like trust and communication for people that it's in the government, for people that it's in civil society. Also, we see in Latin America that sometimes that changes. Sometimes you are part of the civil society and maybe the government changes, the party changes, and people from civil society wants to work in the government and they go to the government. We have seen that in Argentina, in Chile, in Mexico, in Colombia. And that also creates, like, before you were part of the civil society, or maybe you were part of organization, now you are part of the government, you have a different role, but the connection, the trust, and the interest to work together and to work in the benefit of citizens, it's there. So it's a very human, and a very kind of individual spirit, but it's there, and it's also very important to keep the work. So trust is important. And also sometimes you have institutionalized processes, and they have a very important role. They are key, but also informal spaces are important to create that connection. Informal spaces can be like this, for example, data dialogues, can be like these events when you gather after the event just to have a coffee, just to chat with the other person. So those informal connections also matter when you are trying to meet the other one and to build that trust relation. The government and civil society link, that's important, like not to lose it. Sometimes the parties may change, but the people, it's people. And I think just being part of the Latin American community, being part of open data spaces, of dialogue, sometimes like it's difficult, but you will always find someone in the government that wants to do something and wants to work with open data and wants to work with transparency. And those are like champions, I know, but also it's like not to lose hope on that. Sometimes it looks difficult, especially in our region, but you always find that needle in the haystack that wants to work and to still promote this agenda. And also the knowledge grows when it's shared. Like closed knowledge doesn't help anyone, so it just increases its potential and its capacity. And as I mentioned, another lesson and something that we are like seeing is this heritage of a vibrant and connected community that now it's very active, and it's doing and starting to do some initiatives and starting to have discussions and around AI. And I think also that's important when we talk about data, when we talk about transparency, accountability, inclusion, gender, etc. So for me, that's it. And I just want to use also the space to invite you. We're going to have this event again, Abre Latam. It's going to be on the 31st of October to the 3rd of November. And we will love to have you in Uruguay to meet our community, to be part of the community, to have conversations around global challenges. And we're going to open the registration in the following months. So just we'll keep you posted, and we will publish everything on social medias for you to register, etc. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank you so much for all that like big setup, no, the relevance of the communities. And let me tell you, it's not minor role what ILDA has played in the region to accelerate, and how useful this has been both for people working in the government, but also working in civil society, and finding that, I would say, space that in the example of Abre Latam, this conference that has become like part of the movement itself. No, it's really crazy, because it became that, and for many of us was the space where you can have an honest conversation with a colleague, where you can bring those issues that sometimes are really hard, where you can find partners that are maybe giving the same battles in other parts of the region, and that conference has somehow evolved in becoming that space. And this is a recommendation, of course, for our colleagues in Canada, but in other regions, on how important these values of communities that Gloria was talking about, and use that space for many of the relevant conversations. I'm sure that the AI discussion, the flavor of the month discussion, wouldn't be the same without having the community that has paved the road on several discussions on the early days of open data, and now can provide a critical view, but a lot of good examples, and I think a good constructive criticism to approach this very complex discussion that we will have in the context of AI for sure. So thank you, Gloria, very much, and of course, let me tell you that you need to go to Montevideo to Abre Latam. You can go first to Tallinn in Estonia to the OGP Global Summit. So you come there, you meet the community there, and then you move to Montevideo, amazing city, for Abre Latam. So keep that in mind. So we are having like really little time for questions, because I need to give basically the floor to Judy in basically 3 minutes. So let me if you have questions, basically what the organization is proposing, of course, is, since we are about to close, unfortunately, is if you have questions, send it to the organization. We will make sure that Andre, Gloria, and Tamara get those questions. They're very public people, so it's not very hard to meet them online. I'm personally going to also write a little blog about this conversation to showcase basically what was this about, and I'm going to connect them to them. But usually, I mean, we run, unfortunately, out of time. So let me first thanks the three of you. I think it's a very constructive conversation. I'm super happy. I'm going to get the rights of the A Needle in a Haystack title for this. So I'm going to go around cities talking about this. I think it's a really nice concept, but I think it was good to see the examples of Buenos Aires, very concrete implementations with concrete communities. The case of Hamburg on how it's developing this roadmap to explore in a very grounded way their own strategy, talking to specific communities rather than just like throw the data sets over there. And then Gloria on the relevance of the communities, on the relevance on how these movements can really benefit from a community approach, and how important is this to face the different challenges that we will have. So I'm going to invite Rudi, Rudi, basically to give you the floor. And I think that's about it. Thank you again to my three colleagues. Thank you to everyone who stayed and listened to this. I hope this was useful to you. Please come back to us for question or through Rudi, and we were happy to answer there. I'm sure that both Tamara, Gloria, and Andre have more to share. So thank you very much. And in the name of OGP, again, thank you for the invitation. Rudi, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Rudi. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone on the panel and Rudi for organizing this. It was great. And I actually have lots of questions. I'm going to follow up with Tamara, Andre, and Gloria, because it's great to get this very different perspective from everyone. And there's lots that we can learn from you. So we will definitely be back to you. And as noted in the chat, if you have any questions that you'd like posed to these speakers, please put them in the chat or the Q&A before we close off at 10:30. And I just wanted to again thank the panel for great presentations, and to invite the people who are currently on the workshop that we will be closing off at 10:30, and then you've got a 15-minute break to rejoin us at 10:45 for the ABCs of artificial intelligence and chat GPT and government, which I think the panel may also be interested in. And you're welcome to join us then.